God is the creator of everything, um, but the reason that there is such disparity, such a big gap between the haves and have-nots. My name is Pauline Glamourchak. On the day that my NDE occurred, it was autumn time. We'd gone for a picnic, a family picnic. We were visiting friends in Victoria. We're playing outside, at this picnic ground in the Mount Macedon Ranges, which is a very beautiful part of Australia. And we were running down a hill as children, and I tried to run very, very fast to catch up with everybody because I didn't want to be last. And in running so fast, I tripped on a rock, and instead of going with the impetus, I overcorrected and threw myself back and hit my head very hard. In fact, it was so hard that I later found out that I'd sustained a traumatic brain injury in the right temple, impact, but I didn't feel anything, any pain. And I'd had my eyes scrunched, and I felt like I opened my eyes, but I was still in darkness. And then I came out of my body. And when I came out of my body, I realized that there was no impact, there was no pain at all. When I came out of my body, I just felt incredibly light. It was very shortly afterwards that the atmosphere was thin, and I was on the verge of being in space. So I looked around, and I looked up, and I saw this black hole appear above me. Some would say it was a wormhole, and now many describe it as a tunnel. So I was vacuumed into this tunnel and travelled at great speed through this tunnel. But I looked up and I saw a gold light. And it seemed that as soon as I saw that light, I was there. I was in it. It was in the tunnel. It was coming, pouring in. And this light had a very tactile nature. It wasn't just a visual light. It had felt like velvet and honey, and these kind of words come to mind when I think about what it felt, the feelings that it had. I felt immersed in the light. I felt held by God like a father holds a child, and I felt unconditionally loved. I was so filled with love that I was fearless and just filled. Absolutely in no doubt that any fear that I had about what was going to happen to me was annihilated with honey treacle love. It was just beautiful. God spoke to me directly, very personally, and he answered my questions. And I only remember that the force that holds everything together is love. That's the only thing that I can remember, although I know that he gave me so many things, so much information, and I know that I remember just thinking, oh, it's so simple. That I looked around and realized I was safe. I looked around and I could see below me there was faces, people looking up at me. And I flew down. In that realm, you kind of glide and fly, and it's not, you don't walk as we do here. And I flew down, and they greeted me as though they knew every aspect of my life, and I was some kind of champion, some kind of it was just mind-blowing to be known. After they greeted me, I looked around at where I was, because first of all, I just was aware of these faces and these people. And then I looked around and I could see this big wall, and over the wall, I could see over the wall, and I could see hills and beautiful, beautiful landscape and children playing. It was just joy. The light and the colours there are just joyful, joyous. It's such perfection. I could see close up to the children and their laughter and happiness, and I could see far past the hills, past the wall. And I looked up into the sky and I saw a light, and it was a beautiful, beautiful light. Uh, it's not like our sun. It wasn't like our sun. And but I immediately thought, oh, what a beautiful place I've come to, and what a beautiful sun. And as soon as I thought that, it started to move towards me, and I realized it was moving towards me. And as soon as I realized it was moving, it was there. It was right in front of me, and there was a white center, and it was kind of like the candle that's white in the middle. But I realized that the white center was in the form of a man, and as it came closer, a man stepped out. I could see that a man was stepping out of the sphere, and when I saw this man, I knew immediately who it was. I couldn't. The first words I spoke inside of myself was, "Is this Jesus? This is Jesus. He's really real." And that was just overwhelming. Um, that image, I'll never get it out of my head. And he laughed. He just laughed when I realized that he could read my mind, and he just laughed when I said, "Oh, he's really real." you know. I just felt immediately hugged by him. Now, I can't remember exactly if it was a physical embrace, but I felt embraced. It was a real embrace, not just a physical embrace. So it was, yeah, it was very overwhelming. And Jesus went on to tell me some things about um, who I was to him. And he had a special name for me. He pronounced my name in Aramaic, and this was the only time he really spoke with his mouth, when he spoke my name. And that was really overwhelming. I knew at that point also he kind of gave me a little glimpse of that I had a part to play in his story. Anyway, I was so overwhelmed with the things he told me. I just fell to his feet, and I cried a lot and talked to him a lot. And when I looked up from his feet, I saw a gold light on the top of his foot, and I realized that the crucifixion was real. So as soon as I realized that the crucifixion was real, I was still placed in front of him, but my awareness was in that situation. My awareness was at the level of flagstones, like paving, ancient paving, and I just saw water and blood drip on the pavement. And when I saw that, I looked up and I saw him standing there with some very cruel men, totally stripped of his dignity. And not only stripped of his dignity, but he was mutilated, and his flesh was torn from his skeleton, and the suffering was very real. And all I could think, because I was aware that I was still in front of him, and I was seeing him glorious, absolutely glorious, majestic, powerful and glorious. And I just said to him, does it still hurt? Because the suffering was beyond my childish imagination. So he said no. And as he said no, I wasn't seeing that scene anymore. I was just seeing that gold light. And the next that I could see, I was in gold mist, and then I was coming down, traveling down over this landscape with him. But I saw this group of people just vitriolic, full of hatred, and next to his purity, it was repulsive, and I could just I felt very angry at them because it was vile and he was so pure, this is how I saw it. But he said to me, no, don't hate them. He corrected me. Actually, before that, he told me, as soon as he brought me back, that he had died to save the whole world. And I said, the whole world? The whole world doesn't know you. The whole world doesn't believe in you. This was in my childish understanding of what he said. And he just said, yes, the whole world. And anyway, he then took me to sit on this big black rock, an asteroid, no doubt. But there are many references in the Bible of God being the rock. So he sat this child on a rock, and below us, my knees were next to his knees, and our legs just dangled in space, and there was just stars in front of us and behind us, and below us there was a nebula. He showed me these things so that at this stage, when he required me to testify, I would have things, that I'd seen to say, see, this is true, this was true, to give me the confidence to go ahead and do it. So it was for my benefit to understand that it was true. But yeah, so he sat me there, and we were very, very close, and I looked into his eyes at that point, and it was just such a sense of love and safety, and I just wanted to be there with him forever. And of course, he could read my mind about that. But at that point, I had the opportunity to ask, what's life about? And he said, life's about love. And I said, oh, but you don't understand. Mind you, I had just seen him tortured and hated, and he was forgiving his enemies. And I was saying, you don't understand. And this was my friend. So I knew then that I had a lot to learn, and that he would send me back. But for some reason, I had to choose to go back. I had to make a free will choice to go back. And the way he helped me make that choice was by showing me a lot of things in the future. How people would be worshipping him in the streets, not in the way that I'd been brought up in church to worship, but with just filled with the Holy Spirit. And this was happening all over the world. He showed me that they would know him as I knew him, and that the world would love him. I agreed. It was an agreement to come back, and he just gently pushed my shoulders, and I fell back and into my body. After the NDE, the doctors and no one believed me, and so I was afraid that my perceptions were not right, and I felt like the world didn't reflect anything that I'd seen. And of course, I'd never heard of NDEs, but still something inside of me changed because I couldn't gossip about anybody. I tried very hard to be kind. I wasn't a perfect child. I still had a temper sometimes, and um, And it was very frustrating because I didn't want to be parted from Jesus. God is the creator of everything. But the reason that there is such disparity, such a big gap between the haves and have-nots, is not of God's doing. It's of our insecurity, and greed, and man's wishing to have power. It's the mistake of men who use and abuse other people because they don't really believe in God, that there is a creator who loves us and has provided everything for us to share. And these men, because of their lack of faith in God or their belief in the devil's, satanic ideology, they have no love in their hearts, and so they don't have a problem in using, abusing, and discarding people. And if we look at Africa, it's a very rich nation, but if you have a look at how its resources have been stolen by greedy men, and it doesn't matter about the colour of the skin, a greedy man is a greedy man. Many fellow Africans have sold their country out. God has provided so much for everybody, but it really is up to each and every person to show his love on earth, to share. It's not a matter for a group kind of policy or legislation to change. It's a matter of each and every heart to change so that we can change this system. Each and every heart to share what they have with those who have not. So we get the opportunity in life. We see people who have not, and we have the opportunity to show God's love and to share what we have to change the world. So the more poverty there is, think of it as our opportunity for those who have to, through being God's hands and feet on earth. That's what the prayer is about. His kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. That's what Jesus told us to pray for, and that's what we should have on earth. The suffering happens because we're separated from God. We are born into traumatic experiences from our parents, the intergenerational. It's, the Bible talks about Adam and Eve being cast out and separated from God from the first sin. So, and that has continued on generation after generation, that we are brought up in trauma. The traumas of war, the traumas of family violence, the traumas of addiction, all manner of traumas. And that, until we look to be reunited with God, meditate on that, and it will change your life.